All right, guys, welcome back to my next chapter in the rebooted Dark Universe pitch, and welcome to Phase 2, which I am calling the Frankenstein Legacy. So here it's going to be a little more Frankenstein centric, and we're also going to build into with other monsters and other creatures and what have you. So this phase is going to be a little bigger. Like I said, phase 1 was more of like establishing monsters and also like what the core of what this film is. And yeah, so if you guys remember, Dracula's assembling his monster army, but we're still out. There's still a few more out there. So we're gonna kick things off with the start of phase 2 with the Wolfman. This movie is mostly self-contained, where Larry Talbot is mauled by a werewolf, but in here he's not attacked in London or, in Europe. Here, Talbot has basically been living in America, and he's actually attacked by a American werewolf. Like, I would have it be like he was basically a frontiersman and attacked by a werewolf here in America. I would even have that, like, yeah, it's not like a skinwalker from Native American lore. I'd actually have it that, yeah, there would be a moment where, like, Larry finds out from someone that was like, did you really think that, like, they all just lived in Europe? No, when the new world was found, you didn't think the monsters of the old world would come too? They've been living here. Like, vampires, werewolves, they've been establishing themselves in America. Like, they've been here since the colonies. And they've been, because they found a new world that doesn't want to remember them. The best trick the devil played was making people convinced he didn't exist. So yeah, it's not like, oh, he's like a Native American werewolf now. No, it's still a werewolf. It's just, did you really think that, like, they wouldn't come to the country too? It's a whole new landscape. So yeah. So Talbot now has to, like, in here, it's a little different that instead of, like, meeting, like, the Romani, it's actually, like, he's getting help from Native Americans who are also, like, yeah, these things don't exist. We don't want these things here. They're like a, plague and what have you. It also leads to him, like, believing, is he a werewolf? Is he not? Because now he's just all fucked up. Maybe it's, like, rabies or something. But this is where we encounter Abraham Van Helsing, who has been in the States hunting monsters, and he's actually the one who tells Larry about, monsters do exist, they're out there, and and basically say, like, yeah, the Order of the Dragon was rebuilt after, an ancient enemy of ours, Count Dracula, destroyed it, and I can help you. Like, I don't believe, in my travels, I've encountered that, like, not every man is a monster. Like, basically, he says, like, I would have this moment where, like, yeah, I've encountered vampires and werewolves and other creatures who just want to be left alone in the shadows. And I've encountered more than enough werewolves to know that, like, not all of you are monsters. So, if you help me destroy Dracula, because I think, like, he is the focal point of evil across the world, if you can help me, I can help you, I can find someone to help you, because I think there is someone who can, if we can find him. And Larry's like, okay, who do you have in mind? Like, who is this guy? And Van Helsing is like, his name is Victor Frankenstein. So now, that's the overarching plot, is that Talbot and Van Helsing are searching for Victor Frankenstein, who is revealed to still be alive. I would even, like, leave that up into interpretation in the Frankenstein film. But yeah. So now we now move on to our next film, and that is The Creature from the Black Lagoon. Essentially what this is we're going to South America, and this is really going to be like a talking point of, like, colonialism and colonizing, and also have that, like, yeah, the world is shrinking through this may be an age of exploration, but there are less and less things to find. So this would be a expedition force, and among those scientists, because they're not looking for the thing is, they're not looking for the Gill Man. That's not their intention. They're going to this place called the Black Lagoon because there's a plant there that is said to be like a great medicinal help. Like, it's supposed to, like, not so much cure cancer, but, like, be able to cure, certain diseases. Like, like, it's able to cure, like, tuberculosis can be eliminated through this drug. Remember, 1800s, tuberculosis hasn't been cured yet, and I wish it stayed that way, but, you know, we've got idiots who don't want to get vaccinated, but that's not here nor there. Anyway, so they want to cure, like, tuberculosis, cholera. This could basically cure those diseases. That drug's name is monocaine. So monocaine is what they're looking for, and among this expedition group is a professor named Jack Griffin. So Jack and these other people they go to the Amazon, to the Black Lagoon, and while they're searching for monocaine, they basically encounter the Gill Man who's living there, and it becomes a fight for survival. They're not they just want to get out now. They weren't prepared for this, but Griffin is basically adamant of, like, we're not leaving without the monocaine. So eventually it leads to just everyone getting killed by the Gill Man. And Griffin is the only survivor, but he did recover the monocaine. Even have a moment where he's like, I need this because my career is shot, and I can't marry the woman I love without the money. So, deuces. So he just leaves everyone, the last few people, to die by the Gill Man, but the Gill Man is wounded from the encounter, and that's when we get Renfield back. And Renfield finds the creature, and, like, even Dracula himself arrives, and even, like, helps calm the monster. But the monster just lashes out and proceeds to try to leave, but Dracula does bring it into the fold, and now the Gill Man has joined the other monsters. So now we get to our next film, which is, shock of all, The Invisible Man. Here we follow Griffin, who is now, like, collected the monocaine and basically said, yeah, we encountered some kind of monster, and we encountered wildlife, and the jungle wasn't prepared for us. Because he's like, no one's gonna believe a fucking Gill Man. Like, there's no fucking way. So he basically cooks up a story of, like, we were attacked by savage tribes, and, the locals killed everyone, and I wish I could save them all, but I got the monocaine. So now Griffin is, like, testing it, but the thing of it is that during the experiments of the monocaine, they discover, this thing don't do shit. Like, this thing does not cure. In fact, it's turning people rabid. It's curing the disease, but it's also making them aggressive. Because they're testing it on animals. So they basically have, like, a dog. They try to test it, but the dog goes rabid, and they're like, there's no way we can go to trial with this. So Jack, in an act of desperation, takes the monocaine drug on himself and, turns into the Invisible Man. From there, the Invisible Man unleashes a reign of terror as Jack's mental state continues to, like, just continuously deteriorate further and further and further. Until eventually, what happens is that he's now just completely psychotic, but he's found by Renfield, who offers, like, my master can maybe find a cure for you. And he's like, cure? I don't need a cure. I deserve only power. And Renfield's like, I got a guy for that too. So So now Renfield brings Jack Griffin, the Invisible Man, to the monster side, and we also check back with Talbot and Van Helsing, who are essentially, like, they've heard about these news, but they believe they found where Victor is. Like, it would even be like a cutscene where it's like, we heard about the Invisible Man, we couldn't stop him, but we think we know where Victor Frankenstein is. Where he is Egypt. So now we've come to the Mummy. So now so here it's going to be a little bit bigger in the monster scale. So in here, we follow that Victor Frankenstein has been alive, and he's more or less been hiding in Egypt to, he's been more or less a doctor in Egypt, because, like, he's like, I created a monster, and I didn't understand what I was doing, so now I want to help these people. And he's working for the British Empire as a doctor, but he's also, like, low rate, so he can help the people first. But there's also another reason why he's there, he's basically been, keeping close to an excavation of a mummy by the name of Karis. And Karis is supposed to be said to be a very important mummy, because in this continuity, Karas is a mummy who, like, in his time, he was like this alchemist, a high priest for this pharaoh, and he used a ancient scroll that he was believed to have been written by the gods themselves, the Scroll of Thoth. So Victor wants to find the Scroll of Thoth because he's been still thinking about like making monsters. Like he still wants even though yes he felt regret about making the first monster, he also has a logical mind to it where it's like that monster was phase 1. That was fucking prototype. I like the next monster I make will be, it'll be perfect. So eventually, yes, Victor does, find his way into the temple, and he does recover the Scroll of Thoth, but in doing so of stealing it, he's awoken Karis. And Karis ain't too happy. So Victor escapes, the mummy proceeds to go on, like, in a search for Victor, the mummy goes on a rampage, kills just tons of people, and the longer and Karis wouldn't be like a dumb shit. Here's the thing: at first, Karis wouldn't be a big At first, he would be a big shambling monster, but the longer he's alive, the longer he is free from his life, the more he remembers himself, and the more he starts to fucking become something else. So we go from Karis being a, dragging himself like mummy, but at the same time, the longer it goes, the longer the more Karis, like, the bandages fall off, the more, because he's like, it would be like a soul drain kind of thing. Again, we're doing that again, we're taking that from the Mummy films, where he's, like, absorbing more people, he's getting his memories back, and Karis shows how powerful he can be, the more souls he consumes, making more undead, and he just wants to get at Victor. But the thing is, this is where Van Helsing has come in. Van Helsing and Larry Talbot have both found him, and even Renfield is there, and even, like, this is where we're kind of, like, having a lot of cooks in the kitchen, because Victor, by the end of it, Karis, he's destroyed, or at least defeated, and Victor has escaped with the Scroll of Thoth, but Renfield took Karis's body to Dracula, and he basically says, hey, I couldn't get the Scroll of Thoth like you wanted, but I found this. And Dracula's like, fair enough, that's good. That's a good consolation prize for now, but we need to find Victor Frankenstein and get the Scroll of Thoth. We need that. So now, so the mummy is more of like, he is the focal point, but that is more like, hey, we're setting up something bigger and bigger. And now we come to The Bride of Frankenstein, the penultimate film of this. So during this, Van Helsing and Larry had a bit of a falling out during The Mummy, where they basically have now, like, split off from each other, because Van Helsing is like, I'm here to destroy monsters, and Larry is just like, I don't give a shit about that, I care about, suppressing this curse, which he's basically been using. How he's been able to suppress the curse for a while is through, like, Wolfsbane and, you putting, like, silver on him, but it does hurt. It's more like a temporary fix, because it only lasts for so long. So Talbot has fucked off, and this is, like, the end of the film for The Mummy. I'll just do that real quick. But yeah. So Van Helsing's gone off his own way, and Victor's off, he's got the Scroll of Thoth, and Van Helsing is now on his own because he's more concerned about destroying Dracula. So now we focus more on Victor in this story with the Scroll of Thoth. But the thing is that now that the monster, his creation knows that Victor is still alive, now things are dicey, because, it's not good. it's not good because the monster wants to kill his father because, like, yeah, he took something from, he created me with no care in his heart. So the monster he basically goes to hunt down Frankenstein, hunt Victor Frankenstein, well, against Dracula's wishes, because he's like, no, Renfield will find him, it's not ready. But yeah, the monster goes anyway to find Victor, and Victor, on the other hand, is in the midst of making a new monster, because now he's learned about so much about the occult, he's gonna use the Scroll of Thoth to bring about the new monster, to bring about the bride. So then, eventually, the monster does find Victor, who has brought the bride into the world. She's smarter, she's more well put together because of the magic of the Scroll of Thoth. But there's a bit of a problem. It's kind of a Pet Cemetery thing where it's like she's a little more malicious, and and Victor was not prepared for that. So what happens is the monster finds her, and basically, they meet each other, and they're like, rather than be afraid of each other, they're like, the monster's like in awe of her, and the bride is just like, look, showcasing, she's like, me like, and Victor's like, you're still alive, and the monster's like, and you are too. And Victor's in awe because he's like, the monster got smarter. Like, he's shocked to discover that the monster's gotten smarter. But yeah, by the end of it, Victor is attacked by both creations, and the Scroll of Thoth is taken, and the monster and the bride, rather than deal with Dracula's bullshit, because he's like, I don't care about, whatever Dracula has planned. Like, the monster's like, I don't care what he has planned anymore. I just want to be alone with you. Like, I found what I needed, and what I needed was you. So they go off, and by the end of the film, Talbot has found where Frankenstein's whereabouts are, and Victor's barely alive. And Victor essentially is like, my name, he meets Larry Talbot, and he's like, I can help you, but first, you need to help me kill a monster. So now we come to the final movie of Phase 2, and that is Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. So in here, Victor is now teamed up with, Victor is teamed up with the Wolfman to help kill the monster's creation, and because he still thinks that, like, he still thinks the Scroll of Thoth is with them. And it is, because the monster's just like, I don't know what to do with this, like, I'll just fucking keep it. So Victor wants the Scroll of Thoth, and he also lies to Talbot saying, hey, I will, like, this thing can cure you for sure. And also, like, he's curious about, what monster DNA he could make with that. Victor's just going full evil here. So eventually Victor and the Wolfman do find the creature and the bride, and it's a fight. Like, this is our first, like, monster fight of the films, and Frankenstein, the monster and the Wolfman throw down in a massive brawl, leading to, during the confusion, Renfield showed up, took the scroll, and what happened next is Victor is killed by his creation, finally. He's finally dead. The Wolfman has nothing. Like, Talbot really has nowhere else to go, and his wolf side has slowly been, this whole phase, Talbot has been losing himself more and more to his more animalistic side, and Renfield is just kind of like, why don't you come hang out with us? Like, if you don't feel like a man anymore, how about you feel like a monster more? So we end on a biggest low note. Dracula now has the Scroll of Thoth, the monster and his bride, and the Wolfman with him. So now we have all of them. We have all the most of the monsters together with him. But we check back in at the end of the film with Van Helsing, who now meets a new ally of his own, because he's like, well, Talbot's gone, I lost him, but whatever. And that's when he meets a woman by the name of Zofia. And Zofia is Dracula's daughter, and she wants to help destroy her father once and for all. So there you go, guys. That's the end of Phase 2, so hope you all have been enjoying these. Stay tuned for Phase 3, because we're going to go full... It's about to get wild. Anyway, just hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.